Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Whichfranchise webinar. I only wish I could be welcoming you under better circumstances. I know we're all feeling pretty depressed with COVID and bad economy, but that was one of the reasons that we decided to do this webinar, because we used to look at the paper every morning and see more companies going into business rescue and people being retrenched. And we thought, gee whiz, let's try and do something to help all those people. So right up front, I wanted to say two things to you, those people that are maybe looking for work. These two things are, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, and you've got to get going. And you can't sit there and wait for things to happen. You've got to make things happen. And what we're going to try to do today in this webinar is to try and help you how to make things happen. So let's start off by going into the first slide, which is the South African economy. Now, I could spend the next hour telling you how bad the economy is. But what I thought, let me just try and summarize for you what it means to you. Now, if you take a country or a big company, when they invest large amounts of money, they do it so that they can grow. Now, what happened with South Africa, we invested 500 billion to counter COVID. Now, 500 billion, that's a fortune of money. And we borrowed last night another 4.3 billion from the International Monetary Fund. So when you've put that kind of money in, you've got to service that debt. You have to pay interest on that loan. Now, one would expect if we're going to invest that kind of money, things should grow. But what's happened to the South African economy, the gross domestic product, which measures growth, is that we're going to decline by 10 to 15%. So that's scary, that we're putting all that money in and still the economy is going to decline. So what does it mean to you? It means that South Africa's got to do two things. It's got to cut costs and it's going to up taxes. Now, if they're going to cut costs, the best way to cut costs is to cut people. Now, that means that we're going to get a huge amount of unemployment, and that's a bit scary. So what does it mean to you? It means that as we're talking today, in excess of 14 million people are looking for work, and that's going to grow. So if you're looking for work today, you're competing with 14 million people. Now, unless you've got very special skills or unless you have contacts, the likelihood of you going to get a job is probably not very high. So I think, we're looking at that bad situation. Now, the other worrying thing is that because of the high debt and because of the low growth, I can't see an end to this. We haven't got a virus. So if we look at the economy, I reckon we're in this for the next 2 to 3 years at least. So we're certainly not going to get a V-shaped return. So whatever we're doing here, we're sitting here and saying, we better make things happen, because the likelihood, and we'll talk just now about getting a job, is going to be minimal. So what is the solution? Okay, so let's go to the next slide, and hopefully that's the solution. So the solution is that you've got to buy yourself employment. Now, if you take England, they used to talk about that country, the UK, as a country of shopkeepers. The people used to live above their shop and they worked in their shop and the whole family worked in the shop. Now, I think in the past, we were quite spoilt in South Africa. Certainly when I left school, and that's a long time ago, you never worried about not getting a job. I mean, if we didn't get a degree, and there was always, you could go to the bank or the building society, and if a last resort, you could work for the government. But that's a very, very different situation today. So therefore, we're almost looking at it and saying, the one thing or the one big option that you've got at the moment is that you've got to buy a job. Now, you could look at it and say, maybe I still will get a job. And what I'm hearing from HR people is that every day they're getting but thousands of CVs. And what surprises me is the quality of the CVs. People are almost like spray and pray. They're putting out very average CVs. I had a young girl come in here the other day who's got a BCom honors in marketing, and we actually took her and we made her the product. We made her look good, and we packaged it beautifully. We got little wire logos made, and we hand delivered it to the HR director at the company, and she got a job. So in other words, if you're still out there and you don't want to buy employment, at least put out a CV that will knock the socks off the HR director and not be in the queue. I know we're involved in a number of retail outlets, and if we just put the word out that we're looking for someone to employ, we have a queue outside the door. So what we're going to do today, we're going to try and take you through this solution if you want to buy employment. And you've got two options. You can start a business from scratch, and that would be great if you were a total entrepreneur. Or the other option is you can actually buy a franchise. However, let's go to the next slide, because that comes with a huge warning. So when you start up a business, there's risk. There's absolutely no doubt. Now, let me give you an example. If you were going to buy into a business now, you're probably going to make two huge investments in your life. You're going to buy a house, and you could say, I'm going to start a business. Now, let's assume that you're going to spend 2 million buying a house, and you're going to spend 2 million starting up a business, be it a new business or a franchise. And let's assume that you made a big mistake in the house. You bought in the wrong area and things didn't go well. You could probably still sell that house for maybe 1.6 million. So your total loss would be about 400,000. Now, if you don't do your homework and you don't really research it, and you buy a bad business, you're going to lose that total 2 million. But even more, you're going to lose more, because you probably would have signed a lease. You're going to owe taxes. You're going to owe on some of the purchases you've made. So you're going to lose that 2 million, and you're going to put yourself in a very, very precarious position. So what I'm saying there is that you've really, really got to be careful. However, there is an upside to it. So I don't want to sound totally negative, because if you do your homework properly and you buy a business and you spend the 2 million rand and the business is successful, it'll change your whole lifestyle, because right away you've got an income that's guaranteed. You could probably bring some of your family into the business. And if you really ran that business and it was successful, you could sell it at a high multiple. So let's assume you invested 2 million. It's not impossible that 3 or 4 years down the line, you could sell that business for about 6 or 8 million. So therefore, I don't want to sound totally negative. I want you to understand that buying into a business is a big risk, but if you do it properly, it's really very, very satisfying. And I think most entrepreneurs will look at that and say, you know what, it wasn't only the monetary value I got, it was the satisfaction of starting a job and seeing it really do well. Some of you know I was involved in Nando's, and I remember when we opened the first outlet in the UK, it was such a good satisfaction to know that here was a little South African brand that was now open in London. So, although I'm coming with a big warning, if you do your homework properly and really do things well, we're going to do pretty well out of it. So to help you there, what I want to do is maybe go through 6 rules, which perhaps will help you to get into this business and do it well. So let's look. There's 6 rules to follow, and I'm going to try and take you through each one, and hopefully you can really look at it. Don't try and take notes as we're going through this, because we are going to send you all these slides at the end of the presentation. So you can listen very carefully. So the first rule is select a growing market segment. Now, you might be thinking, look, in the current economy with all the negativity, why would I possibly want to go into a business? Because there's such negativity out there that I would be silly to actually go into a business. Now, however, there are some amazing things. There's certain categories or certain sections that are growing because of COVID and because of the lockdown. And what we've tried to do here is to say to you, let's try and look at some of the categories that are growing at the moment. So the first one is storage. People are downsizing. Some younger couples are even selling up their flat and they're going to live with their parents. And as they downsize and people move into smaller premises, they're having to store goods. So the first one, and I can tell you, you're going to hear from Dylan just now, that storage is really doing very, very well. Delivery and courier services. When I come to work in the morning, normally there was huge traffic, and now there's very little traffic on the road. But what I do see is courier vehicles and little scooters riding around, and therefore we're going to talk to you a little bit about fastway couriers, which is also a growing sector. And then you've got beauty and health. During the World War II and I, they had something that they called the lipstick factor, because they said, ladies, even though times were incredibly tight, they wanted to look good. So they were very, very happy to buy lipstick instead of chocolate or something else. And I think even though we're in this lockdown and that, there's still an opportunity to look good. And one of the problems at the moment is that the gyms are closed. So there's not a lot of places you can go to. And I know that it's even difficult to buy gym equipment at the moment because everyone's trying to get in and do that at home. And then internet solutions. As people work from home, it's becoming more and more prevalent that they're upgrading their homes. And I've been trying to buy some internet equipment recently, and we're getting like 6 weeks waiting list because people are buying cameras and they're buying earphones and speakers, and that's certainly happening. And the other thing that's interesting about homes is that they say people are staying at home more, and they're actually seeing what's wrong with their houses. So they're actually going to builders, and you see builders are packed out and doing home improvements and that as well. And then cleaning services are doing exceptionally well, because every time somebody is identified with COVID, the whole place has to be sanitized. So a lot of cleaning services are really doing particularly well. Upgrading homes, I'm seeing people selling little portable desks that fold away, because if you're working from home, you've got to upgrade your home and really have a comfortable place to work from. Automotive maintenance, what's happening, people aren't buying new cars. In fact, people are holding back on many, many goods. So if you wanted to get into the automotive servicing and spares and tires, definitely cars are going to be older, and that's a growing segment. And then occupational safety and health. We're working with a company from Cape Town called Safe Working Practices. And every construction site that goes on again has got to be, the documentation has to be done, and all the work has to be done. And they inundated with inquiries. So I hope that you can see that although we're in very, very tough times, there are certain categories that are going and doing exceptionally well. So rule number 2, let's move on to that. You've now got to select a successful brand in those categories. So the first thing you've got to do is pick a category that you'll enjoy. In other words, if you're really weak at IT, it's no good going into an internet franchise. Or if you don't enjoy cleaning, going into a cleaning franchise. So out of those categories that I gave you, you've got to pick one. Now, let me stress right up front, not all franchises are good. There are fly-by-nights. There's people out there ripping people off. And therefore, you've got to be exceptionally careful as to what one you choose. So let me go through some of the things. The first thing, that it's actually legal, that the franchisor has to give you a disclosure document. Now, that document was designed so that you could be ensured that what you're buying into, as much as possible, was a good and honorable franchise. In there, it's got to say that none of the directors have legal cases against them. There's an audited letter that says that the business is a going concern. There's a list of all the current franchisees which you can contact, and you need to get that disclosure document and study it carefully. One of the things, if the document's outdated, already it doesn't look too good. Then in that document, there's a list of all the franchisees. I would go and visit some of them, pick some at random, because if you phone them, they're not going to be as cooperative, because they're going to think, well, I wonder why somebody's phoning me. So phone those franchisees, then make an appointment, go and see them and ask them, are you pleased that you actually bought this franchise? Is it doing what I was told it's going to do? Then Google the directors, look onto Hello Peter, find out, have those guys got a good track record? As much as they're going to check you out, check them out. Talk to the bank, talk to suppliers, just gather information. You might even be able to use a franchise consultant, although we don't necessarily do that, but use Whichfranchise, because there's a whole lot of information on Which, and we are pretty careful about who we put on Which. We won't put a client on unless we've seen an updated disclosure document. So all I can say to you is go around and gather information and do as much money as you, much research as you possibly can. So now, rule number 3, because you're going to be putting a whole lot of money in, you've got to make sure that you're going to get a good return on your investment. Now, a good return on your investment today, if you bought a franchise, you should be able to earn a market-related salary, pay off the loan, and you should be able to get your money back in about 3.5 years. It used to be 3, it's now 3.5 years. So what I mean, if you bought a franchise for R1 million, you should draw a market-related salary, pay off your loan, and you should get your return back in about 3.5 years, which means that business, after all the payments, should make about 30,000 Rand profit per month. And that gives you a little bit of an idea on what you've got to do to get a good return. Now, in the disclosure document, they have given you a model of what they believe the income and expenditure of that franchise should be. So therefore, you've got an example, although they'll have a disclaimer written across it to say that they can't hold themselves responsible for it. It means you can go and check. And when you visit the franchisees, ask them, are you getting a 3 to 3.5 year payback? Because that's sort of the going rate in the market. So let's go on to rule 4. Now, this is quite an important one. It's make sure you have enough sufficient capital, which we call working capital as well. So the way it works at the moment, you're going to see some franchises just now that, let's say, the total franchise with working capital would cost you 2 million. Now, the way the banks work at the moment is, provided the concept is proven and provided you credit worthy, the banks will lend you 50% of that. So if you want to buy a franchise for 2 million, you need R1 million unencumbered funds. And the bank will lend you that million. Now, apart from buying the franchise, there's 3 things that are important. You've got to have what we call working capital, because it's highly unlikely that the business will actually make money from day one. So you've got to work out how long you believe and forecast that it will take you to break even. And 3 things you've got to cover there. You've got to cover your salary. And again, don't try and draw a huge big salary. It's got to be a very low market related salary. Then you've got to make sure that you put in there a marketing campaign, because when you start a new business, it's very important you do good marketing, because that means that you can get the turnovers up and you can get it going early. So don't try and cut marketing in the beginning. It's absolutely critical. And then I want to caution you, there's a thing called the VAT trap. A lot of franchisees will say to you, don't worry about VAT because you'll get it back. Now, unfortunately, in the current times, it's incredibly difficult to register for VAT and recover that VAT. So on 2 million, if you take 15% VAT, your VAT is going to be about 300,000. Now, to get that back, I would be very surprised if you get it back under 5 months. So you've got to, and the reason for that is it's becoming more and more difficult to register for VAT, put the claims in and get it back. So in your working capital and in your business plan, you've got to make sure that you've made allowance for those 3 areas. Now, I was talking about a business plan. Whatever you do, when you look at buying a franchise or buying a business, it's very important that you have a plan. And that plan is built around projections. So you've got to work with the franchisor to do projections for yourself. So when you start, you've got absolute targets. So in month 1, you've got a turnover target, you've got a gross profit target, and you've got a profit target. And you can control your expenses very carefully, because in retail, uh, expenses are all about percentages. So in other words, when you run a retail outlet, if we say that you can afford to spend 10% on rent, that's what you got to work to. And in fact, in a funny way, it's better to spend higher money on rent and do bigger turnover than cutting the rent back and doing lower turnover, because you'll make less profit at the end of the day. So very often you'll have a figure that says I can spend 10% on rent, I can spend 16% on labor and wages, and you've got to watch those percentages very, very carefully when you go about doing this business. So, they always talk about turnover is vanity, but cash flow is reality. So, in other words, in a business, what you bank and what you've got in the bank, or what you got for cash flow, is the critical thing to really, really watch very, very carefully. So this slide is very important. Make sure you've got that working capital, because the downside, if you borrowed from the bank and the bank looks at you and says, well, I think he's doing quite well. If 2 months later you go to the bank and say, oh, I want to overdraft, I'm battling a bit because my VAT hasn't come back, right away it waves a red flag to the bank and they say, whoops, we better watch this guy. Okay, so that's that rule. The next one is, and this is probably absolutely critical, site selection is so important. Very often people say there's 3 rules to a successful business, and that is site, site, site. Now, what we've got to be careful of is, in your enthusiasm and wanting to get going, very often you see a site that you feel is just not 100% right. And you actually look at it and say, I'm going to take it because I'm so keen to get going. And that can be really, really difficult. Now, even if you're looking at a concept that doesn't need retail, you might even say, I'm going to work from home. But you've got to be very, very careful that you live in the right area, because where you are is critically important. I'm not a fan of working from home, because there are times people come and the dog licks them, and it's not the ideal situation. But the good news at the moment is that currently a tenant's market, you can secure a really good deal. The landlords at the moment are really battling, and yet I still see some of the landlords are putting out proposals where they say, you know what, escalation 10%. Now, I can tell you the bigger brands are getting escalation at 4 or 5%. So when you go out there and you look for a site, make sure that you're really going to negotiate heavily, and don't just accept anything that comes along. Now, the other thing about it is that shopping centers are changing. And, I think that even those huge, big retail centers are not doing as well at the moment. People are almost keen on going to the sort of strip malls where there's a Woolworth food court, where it's park and go. In other words, if you're going to start a dry cleaning operation, people don't want to take their dry cleaning and walk through a big shopping center like Sandton City. They want to stop right outside the dry cleaner and go in. So I think, there's quite a lot that you can do in those areas. It might even pay you to get what we call a site evaluation done. We work with a number of companies, and they do full evaluations of a site. And I know for some of the bigger retailers, they were able to predict with about 90+% accuracy of what those particular turnovers would be. Now, to get a site evaluation done is probably going to cost in the vicinity of 5,000 Rand. But that 5,000 Rand might be a phenomenal investment for you, because, you can't make a mistake. Once you've built the store and you're in a bad site, it's almost impossible to relocate. So site is critically important. But the good news is that it's your market at the moment. If you go into shopping centers, I was laughing the other day. I went into one of the shopping centers and I thought, geez, you know what, there's a new brand around, because every second store's got this big sign up called "To Let," and all these stores are vacant, and therefore it's very important. Now, when you go into a shopping center as well, the shopping center has certain areas that are very prominent and others that aren't. So very often you look for what we call main and main. and you don't want to be at a bad entrance where there's a very, very low footfall. So again, I'm telling you that there's a huge amount of homework that you need to do there. And then rule 6, which is also a pretty important rule, is motivated and well-trained staff are critical. In other words, at the moment, there is such a need that if you put out a CV, you'll be inundated. And often in retail today, if we just whisper that we've got a vacancy, when we come to the store in the morning, there's a queue out the door. So you've got to be very, very careful about employing people. Check references, check credit references, check everything you possibly can, because it's so important that you get well motivated people, and you've got to train them well. Now, I would say, if any of you know, my son runs Seattle Coffee and we're involved in Seattle. And I think it's amazing when I talk to people, they do say, look, you've got good coffee. But very often what people say to me is, you know what, you got a fantastic barista at that store. And I think we've really tried our very, very best to motivate our staff and get them to react well. I had a call from someone the other day, and he said he was in Seattle, and a customer walked in and they started singing happy birthday to him, and they had a little cake with a candle in. Now, why I'm saying all this is that those things are never forgotten. And what's happening at the moment, people have got less money and they're holding back from an expense point of view. They want to get good service. And the best advertising that you can ever have is word of mouth. So if people go and say, I went to Seattle yesterday and it was phenomenal, that's the best marketing that you'll ever have. Now, again, when you come to motivation, in your plan, you'll have labor as a percentage of total sales. And let's assume, for argument's sake, you say that labor is 14% of sales. One of the good ways to incentivize your staff is to say, I'm prepared to pay 14, and let's say you budgeted for 500,000 and the turnover was 700. That means you've got an extra 200. You would still be happy to pay the 14%. So therefore, there's 28,000 there that you could divide amongst the staff. That's an extreme case because often they're not 200,000 over budget. But just motivate that staff and look after the staff very, very carefully. And I can tell you that it will pay dividends. A lot of people are cutting back on staff now. And when you walk in, that service is not sharp. It's not like it used to be. And I think we're all looking for good service because we've all got limited cash flow. So what's going to happen now, what we've done, we've taken a number of 3 concepts from companies, 2 that are on Which, and one we're saying it's a really good opportunity to look out for. And what we're going to do is we're going to show you these 3 companies, and each of the guys, Dylan, Murray, and Jennifer, are going to tell you a little bit about their company, and then we'll come up and wrap it up. But just bear in mind that a lot of what I've been saying to you and much, much more is on the website, whichfranchise.co.za. So please go into that and study it. There's a lovely section there, 25 questions to ask the franchisor. So I'm going to hand back to Natalie now, and she's going to introduce each of the speakers.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for attending. I'd like to introduce Dylan Rodriguez from Storage King. And I will put him online now.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Dylan Rodriguez. I'm the CEO and founder of Storage King South Africa. I'll be talking to you a little bit about our franchise offering today. Next slide, please. I'm a qualified chartered accountant and started Storage King 8 years ago. And my goal was to find a business that ticks the following boxes: creates passive income, which is extremely important, low capital expenditure required, minimal staff complement, utilizes the best available technology, and provides customers with convenience and a need-based service. We rated the most convenient and reliable storage company in South Africa. Next slide, please. We have built a very well-recognized brand in the storage industry. Our main USP is convenience, professionalism, and best price guarantee. We offer a portable storage solution where the storage unit is actually bought to the individual or to their business. As you can see, on the right of the slide, those are the locations available. We plan on operating and opening another 39 franchises nationwide in all 9 provinces. There are 8 locations left in Gauteng and 3 in the Western Cape. On the 1st of July, we opened up a franchise in Montague, Cape Town. We've ensured that each franchise location has the same catchment area and then hence demand as our head office facility, so that our projections that are in our disclosure document, as Eric mentioned, are met. Next slide, please. This is how our process works. The customer calls in or inquires online or books online. We determine how many storage units they need. We then load the unit onto a truck, deliver it to their house or business. A team of guys packs the unit for them. That's the convenience. It's locked and the key is kept with the customer. The unit is then brought back to our facility where it can be accessed by the customer, or we can redeliver it at a later stage. So there's no more convenient way because everything's done online. The customer doesn't have to lift a finger. And we also can ensure that they get the best price because our guys are loading, our staff are loading the units, utilizing the full space. Next slide, please. Okay, this is the total investment required. As you can see there, the upfront fee that gives you access to all of our IP, software systems training. The setup costs includes covers for the storage units, deposits for the truck and forklift, computer equipment, signage, and so on. And then there's the working capital that Eric also spoke about. That will be required to pay salaries, rentals, advertising costs while the units are filled up and the business grows. The monthly expenses are mainly fixed. So as soon as break-even point is reached, any income earned goes straight to the bottom line. And then you've also got the 8% monthly management service fee and the monthly advertising fee of 4%. Next slide, please. There's a photo of the entrance to our newly built 10,000 square meter head office facility in Malabongwe. I'd like to chat about a few points. We've got self-storage and just the difference between self-storage and portable storage and the self-storage industry. In a post in Forbes titled Evaluating Real Estate Investments Through a Post-Pandemic Lens, storage is singled out as one of the bright spots in an otherwise depressed real estate market. So there's still a large untapped market for storage in South Africa. If we compare the demand to countries like the USA, Australia, European countries, and so on. Portable storage in those countries have begun to outperform self-storage and is definitely the way of the future. Storage is also a recession-resilient business, and it is a need-based service, not a luxury offering. This is a great benefit, extremely, especially in these sort of tough economic climates, and is one of the few businesses that will thrive during this pandemic we are currently facing. Predominantly, as Eric also mentioned, because of the majority of the population will be forced to downsize. Our sales results in June were the highest they've been all year, which definitely says a lot. There's also the low-cost capital that is required. Our franchise model offering allows you to both rent the storage warehouse and rent the storage units from us for a period of 5 years, after which the units become rent-free. So your capital cost is minimal during these tough times. The model is based on utilizing the height of the warehouse. So basically the units are stacked 3 high, and a 2,000 square meter rented warehouse will generate the revenue of owning a 6,000 square meter facility. A little bit about our brand. We pride ourselves on a service-orientated and professional brand, and we make use of the best management software, online quoting systems, and technology available. just to make sure that the customer gets the most consistent and best service, and that the franchisees can spend their time growing the business rather than mundane tasks. We ranked number 1 in performance in our industry on Google AdWords and have built a very well recognized brand. Franchise Plus have been instrumental in putting together our model and are undoubtedly the best in the market. A little bit about the income analysis and how we generate income. We charge 750 Rand for 1 portable storage unit per month and offer a sliding scale for when more than 1 unit is required. 1 unit can fit the contents of a studio apartment. We also charge for transport, loading, wrapping of items. We sell and deliver packaging material. So there's many sources of income. We also specialize in vehicle, caravan, student and document storage. Next point is the location of facility, which is also very important, as mentioned by Eric. If you are approved as a franchisee, we source the correct rental property. We've done those surveys, and we get professional sort of property agents on board who assist us with this. It's our goal to, pass on and instill knowledge on you to ensure that the franchisee has a profitable and sustainable business. And then returns, which is obviously the most important question that everyone's asking. What are the returns on my investment? But within 3 years, you can expect to have doubled your initial investment and receive an excess of 260,000 Rand per month before tax and depreciation going forward. This is a substantial return on investment and is, in my opinion, very difficult to beat. My goal is to give hardworking, owner-managed people the opportunity to build a long-term business where you become in control of your own destiny. In short, you become a landlord to many, many tenants. You'll have the support of the best portable storage team in the market, and to all the improvements and advancements that we've actually learned over 8 years. Next slide, please. So why choose Storage King? Well, in short, tenants store on average for 12 months. So buying a Storage King franchise will give you the opportunity to know what your future income will be. This is one of the very few businesses that allow for this. You will build a base and within 3 years have over 1,000 units rented out. This is a wealth generating vehicle and a lifestyle business for the franchisee that will in time offer the franchisee the 2 most important commodities, both time and peace of mind. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much, Dylan. I'd like to now introduce you to Murray from Fastway Couriers. Sorry.
Morning, sorry, took my mic off there. Morning, Murray from Fastway Couriers. Just wanted to introduce myself and my 2 partners. We started this business we purchased a business from the New Zealand franchise, the global franchise, in 2007. We were looking for a competition to the South African Post Office, and we stumbled across Fastway Post Office in New Zealand, because New Zealand have been going since 1983, and not only do they have a courier service there, but they've got a post office as well. So because one of my partners and myself have been in courier since the 80s, we looked at the courier model and we saw it was unlike anything else we have in South Africa. So we purchased it. The whole of 2008 was research and development and training overseas. And 2009, we launched in South Africa. Since we've launched with thanks to Whichfranchise, we've got over 300 franchisees in South Africa at the moment. Next slide, please, Natalie. Okay, so we're the largest franchise courier company in the world and in South Africa. We have national master franchises in South Africa, New Zealand, Ireland, Australia, and Northern Ireland. We've got three distinct franchise tiers inside each country. One is the national master franchise, of course, that's where I'm from. Then we have the regional franchise. Now, the regional franchise holds the license for an entire city or province. And the geographical territory is included in that. So you will hold that geographical territory, and underneath you, you will recruit courier franchisees responsible for the courier franchisee support in all aspects of the business. So sales, marketing, admin, technology, operations, everything. They will get training from you, and they will look up to you for assistance. The franchise license is in perpetuity, so forever and ever. So you'll hold that territory for as long as you want it. It's an asset of yours, but you purchased it. And like any other asset, you can sell it, you can hang on to it, it's up to you. The courier franchisees, and they hold a license for a suburb or part thereof, or an area that falls inside the regional franchise territory. They are responsible for the sales and the service inside that territory. They are the man or woman in the vehicle, making the service happen and creating the sales. The franchise license, again, is in perpetuity. They must have a suitable vehicle, and the various operational items that are supplied to them by yourselves as a regional franchise. A new franchise is coming in the middle to end August. It's an agency, and it's for retail outlets. In each courier franchise territory, we will have an agent inside that territory. Now, the courier franchisee obviously operates from a vehicle or operates from a van. This agent will operate from a building, a bricks and mortar building. We want them to be already an established business, so that we can just plug and play our fastway model, so people can walk in and drop off parcels to be collected, or pick up parcels that they've decided to allocate to that particular delivery address. So that's launching in August, and it's going to be a great success. Next slide, please. Right, this map just shows the various depots. So a normal fastway regional franchise depot is the little red building. The fastway sub depot is obviously in a smaller town where we do have premises, but they're not a fully how can you say, operational franchise. It's mainly run by one or two courier franchisees. And the red buildings with the red circle around it is the regional franchises that we have for sale. So at the moment, for sale, we have Bloemfontein, George, Clarksburg, Rustenburg, Newcastle, and Nelspruit. Next slide, please. Okay, the costs involved, if you're purchasing a regional franchise, the 6 that we have available, they range from 250,000 up to about 500,000. The training is an 80,000 Rand once-off fee. It's for a 2-week training course, a classroom training course for you as the regional franchise and your team. The training takes place in Johannesburg. Your startup costs, all of our businesses have been going for quite some time. They are all operating businesses, so the startup costs are pretty minimal, because you're really just taking over an existing customer base and an existing expense. So the total investment, anything from 330 up to probably 500,000 to 600,000, depends on the territory that you choose. As a courier franchise, same story. Some areas are valued greater than others. So courier franchises will range from 40,000 up to sometimes 600,000, depending on the territory for sale. The training fees are 5,000 Rand once off. Your operational and marketing material is about 35,000, and obviously you need to purchase a vehicle as well. The agency license is going to cost you about 25,000 Rand in total. Next slide, please. Sorry, one more slide. Why choose Fastway? It's a proven franchise and business model. We've been going since 1983 and in South Africa since 2009. It's a low-cost entry level, as I'm sure you just saw from the previous slide. It's a low-cost, high-volume business. So you need a big vehicle, not a small little vehicle. You'll need something large, a van, because we'll move a lot of parcels. To give you an idea, we aim for each courier franchisee to deliver and pick up 100 parcels a day, and that could be to 100 different addresses. So you need a pretty large vehicle. The country and the world is moving towards home delivery, and we are experts in that field. Our footprint and our network are very positive. It's a profitable franchise, a very profitable franchise. It's a prepaid business model, so we have no debtors. There are no statements or things like that. All you do is you will sell labels and flyer bags, or satchels as we call them, and you sell them upfront. So you get your money up. The IT system is cutting edge, it's automated, and we pretty much have a paperless system. The customer base, we have over 30,000 customers nationally, with three of the five largest direct marketing business on board. We have consistently grown over 25% year on year since we commenced operations in 2008. The franchise levy is only 10% of sales. There's no marketing fees or anything like that. So we are all relying on sales. As a courier franchise, as a regional franchise, and as a master franchise, we rely on everybody getting sales, because that's where everybody makes their business. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much, Murray. I'd like to introduce Jennifer from Diva.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for taking time to listen to what we have to offer. My name is Jennifer, and I have moved to South Africa 10 years ago at the age of 22 after I got my master's degree in foreign linguistics, and I was so excited to use it, but unfortunately I was not able to use it in South Africa. Or you can say that money that I was offered to use my degree was not good enough for me. So I started looking to what else can I do. So I looked at the markets and what was available back then, like 10 years ago, and I saw a potential in beauty and especially in weight loss industry, because there was nothing similar. So meanwhile, the weight loss market was booming in Europe. So I decided, so why not to bring it to South Africa? Because back then, in 2010, was no other solution besides gym. And lots of people just didn't have time or simple knowledge on how to exercise, what to eat in order to achieve these results. So I have decided to bring technologies to South Africa, and we were the first company who brought slimming equipment to South Africa because there was nothing similar. And 10 years ago, I started this business by myself in a teeny tiny room with only one machine, just working by myself. I didn't have anybody to help me. It wasn't an easy ride, so had some rocky road ride, was from having 50 Rand in my wallet for the whole month to survive with no car, and to be on top of a cover of Forbes magazine just 5 years later. So this business was an incredible ride for me, and now we are ready to share the part of our business with you guys. Can you please show me the next slide, Natalie? Okay, so our business key point on one hand is to sort out one of the main global problems, which is obesity. And it is and it's a huge problem, because just yesterday I read an article that in UK they will be banning junk food advertising because obesity is so bad nowadays. So on one hand, we are sorting out the global problem, which is obesity, and on another hand, we are helping people to regain their confidence. Other services that are available that we do offer, it's skin treatment and business development. So we sell business in a box. We help people to start their own business, but they do operate under their own name. We train them and we provide equipment. Successfully, we have opened 76 salons up to now. Can you please show me another slide? In order to buy Diva franchise, you will roughly need 2.4 million Rand, excluding that. But the best part of this deal that you can pay this investment just under 2 years, where other franchises offer from 3 to 3.5 years that Eric mentioned before. And why is it so quick? Because average slimming package that we do offer costs from 9 to 16,000 Rand. That's what you can make from one client. So can you please show me another slide? So if we have to summarize, why do you need to work with us? We have 10 years in business, in this particular business, in weight loss business. So that's long enough to prove that our model is successful and it is working. And we have huge demands on our services. Your return on investment is pretty quick. So as I'm saying, it's just under 2 years. We have strong base of our followers, have over 100,000 people on our Facebook and Instagram page. And our clients from different provinces always demand to please open salons in their area because there's nothing similar there. So it will be easier to find clients because we already have a strong following base. And also, we do believe that what we are doing, we're actually the best in what we are doing. We believe in real people, real results. We are the only company who actually showcase videos of clients who come from a day when they start up to the goal that they want to reach. So if you are hardworking person that's looking for a good source of income, welcome on board. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jennifer. I'd like to hand it back to Eric. Eric, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, everyone. I hope you enjoyed seeing those 3 opportunities. And you can see we chose them because they were in those growth areas that I spoke to you earlier on. But there's a lot more opportunities. And if you go into Whichfranchise, you'll be able to see many, many more opportunities and try and find the one that suits yourself. Now, we've had 3 questions coming through. Basically, one is saying, how can they, or how can you communicate with me and the other 3 people that spoke? So what we've done is we've created a link on Whichfranchise. So you can go onto the website and you can click on the link and you're very free to ask any questions and we will make sure that either Dylan, Murray or Jennifer get them. Or if you want me to answer any questions, you're very free to communicate with us and we will try and help you there. Then what you said was, are we going to do more webinars? So this is our first, you're actually a pilot. If you feel that you've really got value out of it, we would really like to do something like this once a month and put various other options on. So what we're going to do, we're going to send you a survey and all the slides, and we would really appreciate you filling in that survey and giving us constructive criticism and anything more that you would like or anything that you feel would help you, because we want to do these seminars for you, the people out there who are battling, who are trying to find work, who see the opportunity to buy a business. So I think any questions that you have, and if you complete that survey, it would really help us. And then what you've also put there is, in future, can we get a bank involved? And I think that might be quite a good idea. So if we do one at the end of August, it might be an idea to get a bank on so they can tell you exactly what they look for, whether or not they're going to give you those investments that take place. So I think in future, we really want this to be your webinar, and we want to help you because I know it's tough out there, and we want to make sure you guys are successful. You've got to make sure it happens. Don't sit back. So in conclusion, what I'd like to do is thank Natalie. She put this whole thing together. She was driving it, and she's done a great job. And thanks to Dylan, Murray, and Jennifer for presenting your opportunity. And to all those people out there, I just wish you the best of luck. And I hope we can turn you around and really make it happen. Thanks for booking on. Thanks very much.
Eric, we've just got one question. How do I know if I'd make a good franchisee? Do you have a quick answer for that?
No, we do. I think that, first of all, most people would be good as a franchisee because you actually are a semi-entrepreneur. If you were an out-and-out entrepreneur, you'd have a problem. In other words, Richard Branson would be a terrible franchisee because he'd want to do everything himself. I think you'd find bunny girls in the stores. But if you are a semi-entrepreneur, in other words, if you're brave enough to go into business, you would make a good franchisee. Now, a definition of franchising, which is quite a nice definition, is you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself. So I think most people who have been in corporate, who enjoy working with people, would make a good franchise. It is a little bit difficult where very often you've got to prop yourself up and you might have to hire people that'll help you. In other words, I'm going to say something very nice about school teachers now. School teachers are the most lovely people and they love children. And when they become a franchisee, they often don't want to ask for money because they feel for the parents. So they need a strong accounts person that can prop them up and from a business point of view, get their money in. So I think very few people would do that. However, if you go into which, we do have a psychometric test called the E-test, which is very enlightening. And what you could do is fill the E-test in and you'll get feedback from a psychologist, Ingrid, who's just written a book, to tell you what your strengths and weaknesses are and how you would react as a franchisee. Okay, Nat.
Thank you very much, Eric, and thank you everyone for attending.
Thanks, and good luck to all of you.